Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go.
Right. So, question number 1. Are we giving Riley Leonard too much hype, not enough hype, or just about the right amount of hype right now?
Okay, clarification question.
Okay.
Who's we?
The royal we.
Like the media, the fans, I think those are two different answers.
I came up with this question because we've talked a little bit more about Riley Leonard. I think the last couple. Not that we haven't talked about him, but
yeah,
I just started thinking like, man, are we expecting too much? Are we expecting the right? Like that kind of thing. So it can be us. It can be external.
Okay.
You can, like I said, it's royal. So
you
can put it wherever you want to put it.
So it's a really good question because he is getting a lot of hype. There's no doubt about it. And in retrospect, if we go back a year, I think Sam Hartman got too much hype coming in. I think people saw him as the savior of Notre Dame football, and obviously that did not happen. I think that we are giving the proper amount of hype to Riley Leonard at the moment. We're saying that he has the talent to take Notre Dame over the hump to compete for a national championship. I think that's accurate. And I think if you just watch his film and you watch him play when healthy, which was all of 22 and the beginning of 23, I think he shows that to you, right? I think he makes that case all by himself. I don't think it's too much unless you're talking about the people that are like, he's going to win a Heisman, he's going to do all these, like, that's too much, right? If he does at Notre Dame what we think he should do, then that stuff just comes along with the territory. I'm not, nobody was predicting Jaden Daniels was going to win the Heisman Trophy last year, right? And based on he single-handedly won games for that team. There's no two ways about it, right? And his stats were unbelievable.
Right.
If Notre Dame goes 11-1 or 12-0, the starting quarterback at Notre Dame is going to be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. Okay, so I guess you're kind of talking about both at the same time. I think we're right where we need to be with Riley Leonard. I think he does have that talent. We talked about him on Monday as far as him, kind of being the right guy off the field as well.
Yep.
I mean, the proof's right there, So I think it's right about where it should be.
I think it's where it needs to be myself as well. I think it is appropriate. Like if you look externally, like even like look at Vegas and the Heisman odds. I don't think he's in the top 10 in terms of the Heisman odds right now. So obviously they're not putting any overly abundant amount of hype on him. And I think even like from a media standpoint nationally, I think they're kind of underselling him a little bit right now. One, because of the injury that he had last year. And I think people are kind of holding off just to see how healthy he is. And here's DK's point. He says he's tempered after last year.
I get that.
Because there was a ton of hype on Sam Hartman a year ago. Now, big difference. One, in the kind of quarterbacks they are. Two, and I think that this is the even bigger one, Jared Parker is gone and Mike Denbrock is here.
That's a huge difference.
And like me, like I almost feel like maybe my hype has gone up too much because I'm leaning so much on that what Mike Denbrock did with Jaden Daniels last year.
Yeah.
And looking at, you have a very similar kind of quarterback, as Riley Leonard says, like they're very similar. He's like, hey, he might be a little bit faster than me, which is true. But at the same time, they're very similar. They're a very similar kind of quarterback. And you've got the same offensive coordinator. You've got better skill talent around Riley Leonard right now than, I think even, than what Notre Dame had last year around Sam Hartman. So like to DK's point, I'm tempered a little bit, but at the same time, again, like when I lean into this Mike Denbrock connection, like personally, I know that I'm starting to sort of push mine up a little bit as well, especially as we've seen him working out this summer, and he has looked pretty healthy. Because I think that's everyone's biggest concern is just is he going to stay healthy this year?
And I look, it's a legitimate concern to a degree. I don't want to go down the injury trail again. And Texas Chris has a great point. He says, I think the better we question would be, are we talking about his injury too much? Yeah, I think we are talking about his injury too much, the royal we, because people are putting a lot of emphasis on one injury. All of a sudden now he's injury prone and, he's going to get hurt and all of these different things. He's had one injury. It was a bad injury. There's no bad. Look, any one of us in the chat or you or me, if Howard Cross falls on my ankle, I'm probably out for the rest of my life, right? He had to have surgery. They didn't necessarily go right the first time. They had to fix it. Okay, I get it. But it's still one injury. One injury.
Well, now, and I saw a write-up today. I think it was might have been on ESPN where, they were talking a little bit about Riley Leonard and him being an X factor and that kind of stuff. But, they brought up, well, even when he did play last, they brought up the injury, but it was like, even when he did play, he didn't have great numbers. And it brought up, his 53, whatever completion percentage.
That was after he got hurt, though.
And that's what I was going to say. He was affected by, because it was an ankle / foot injury.
And it was his right ankle. It's the one you push off of when you're trying to throw.
Exactly.
Common sense, folks. If you look at his completion percentage before he got hurt, it was 74. It was some ridiculous number. It was a high number. And then, of course, after he got hurt, it went down. I mean, yeah, I get it.
Yes. Brian, thank you for the super chat. He says, love this channel. Been listening to IB members since 2016.
Woo!
Before there was IB. Okay. So he was listening to IB before there was. Okay. I'm just making sure I got that right. Okay. But he says, I think we get Meadows. What say you?
I
say big decision coming this weekend.
Do we get Meadows when it's actually signing day? Maybe. Do you get Meadows when he announces? I say no. That's where I'm at on, and that's basically listening to Brian and Ryan and their talk and what they have put out there and all of that. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen, but Notre Dame's not going to quit on him either.
Right.
And so there's a chance that they flip him once he sees what these wide receivers are doing in the Notre Dame offense throughout the football season. And so maybe by December, I give it like a 50-50, but his announcement, I think that's upcoming here, I'm going to say no.
Same. I mean, it was good news. And if you've read some of Brian's intel in terms of kind of what's going on and the thinking and all that stuff, I'd say 50-50 at best right now that they get him. But I tend to lean toward what you're talking about. He's probably going to, not commit to Notre Dame this weekend when he makes his announcement, but that doesn't mean that they're going to back off him. They'll stay on him until December. And I've said this, whether it's Meadows or someone else, I do think that Notre Dame is going to keep working and they will flip somebody of significance at wide receiver by the time signing day rolls around in December. I think that that'll happen. Just got to play the long game with it. All right, Vince, we recently talked about which Notre Dame coaches we would like to see host a podcast. And I think we all probably remember Kyle Hamilton and company hosted the Inside the Garage podcast back when Hamilton was at Notre Dame. It was. So question today is, what current Fighting Irish player or players would you like to see host a pod?
I would like to see an offensive line pod. I want to hear those guys talk.
Exactly the same. That was like the first thing.
No way.
Offensive line.
Yes.
I would love it.
Because nobody ever talks to those guys.
I know.
Ever. And they have, believe me, offensive linemen are some of the smartest guys on the team. Okay? They are. They have to be in order to be good. But I would love to hear some of the offensive linemen and their takes on the offense and, their takes on the defense that they have to play against every day. And, all of those different things, their outings to Mission Barbecue. I would offensive line is just a different animal than any other position on the field and any other position room on the field as well. Like those guys are like a family. They are always together on every team, but offensive linemen are always together if they're doing it right.
Right.
I think that would be amazing.
I think that would be perfect. And then, like you could have one or two guys as kind of the the main hosts of the thing. And then because there's so many guys in that offensive line room, you could kind of rotate through, bring some guys in, guys of different experience levels and stuff like that, talk about what it's like to sweat and eat barbecue and, everything else. And I think that would be a lot of fun. I think it would be a very unique perspective to get some of the, some of the grunts in there, the guys doing the heavy lifting. I think that would be a lot of fun.
18 offensive linemen, okay, on the roster. You're telling me you can't find some personalities in 18 different guys? I think that could be fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
The other position group, and I think that I would kind of go with position group as well, would be the cornerbacks. I think that would be
there'd be a lot of chirping
and
going on in that room.
See, because what made me think about that, we played the Jordan Faison cut when he and Riley Leonard from that interview with Sean Crawford were talking about how there are a bunch of banshees out there just chirping all the time, like wanting to go out and cover wide receivers and all that kind of stuff, but like Benjamin Morrison, Jordan Clark, Clark obviously comes from, his dad, being on TV. Sure. And, he kind of had that personality when we got to talk to him in the spring, like I think, his personality would lend to it. Jaden Mickey, Christian Gray. I think that would be another one because, just what you said, I think you'd get some attitude coming out of that one. Be a lot of fun.
It could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Going back to what we were talking about, DK says he agrees with you, but he wished that you had said, no way we get Meadows.
Because then it means it's going to happen.
Right.
100%.
Just wait for the opposite.
That's right.
That's what he's saying. DK said Cam Williams, Drake Bowen, Rocco, and Mickey would be his podcast.
Okay.
Guys.
It's a little too heavily swayed defensive. No, it's 2-2. Never mind.
50-50. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
You basically
I don't know
guys at four guys at four different positions.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's not a bad little sprinkling of everybody.
Yeah. I think that would be good. Okay, Vince. So Georgia is the favorite to win the SEC this season. No shock there. The Bulldogs have an over-under win total of 10.5 coming into the season. So we are going to predict Georgia's record this year. They start
got a
off
tough schedule, Sean.
They do.
Tough
they really
schedule.
do. They have to have one of the tougher schedules in the entire country. Definitely in the SEC. They start off with Clemson in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Dome. Non-conference game to start off. So
tough opener.
It is. What do you think?
I don't think Clemson has the horses. I will take Georgia in this one.
I think so as well. I think it'll be at least competitive for a half, but like the horses that you talked about, I see Georgia kind of pulling away and winning by at least 2 touchdowns by the time it's all said and done. So I'm going to go with Georgia in that one. Tennessee Tech, there's another W.
Yes.
Week 2. 2-0. Kentucky in their third game of the season to open up SEC play.
Look, Kentucky's a decent team. I think they're a middle-of-the-road SEC team, but they also have a very difficult schedule, and they may not end up as a middle-of-the-road SEC team, when it's all said and done as far as a record is concerned. They're dangerous, but Georgia gets them at home, and so I will take Georgia.
I concur. So we've got Georgia at 3-0 to start things off, but now they play their first road game of the season, and guess who it's against? They're going to Alabama. No Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer is the man now. And by the way, side note, Kalen DeBoer did his SEC Media Days thing today, and Nick Saban on the SEC Network, is one of their analysts. And I thought it was a little awkward watching Nick Saban interview Kalen DeBoer and DeBoer answer some of Nick Saban's questions this morning when that was going on. I found it very curious that Nick Saban was doing this when DeBoer was up there. Because you know what it usually means when a guy's got his arms folded, right? That's defensive.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
100%.
But anyway, I digress. Georgia at Alabama, week 4.
So Alabama will be 3-0 going into this game most likely because they've got Western Kentucky, South Florida, and then at Wisconsin. Okay, so this will be a big game. There's no two ways about it. This will be a big game. This is Georgia's first real true test as well. Going on the road, all of those things. I still think Georgia pulls it off. So I will take Georgia.
I do too. And I think that Kellen DeBoer, as good as he did at Washington, there are, and as much talent as he inherits at Alabama, and he's already off to a pretty good start recruiting at Alabama. You still have a different mentality from the head coach, and I like Georgia's overall talent better for one, and I like Kirby Smart's experience down there in the SEC. So I like Georgia to improve to 4-0 with a win over Alabama on the road in week 4.
Right.
Then they host Auburn.
Georgia.
Yeah. Mississippi State.
Georgia.
So now we are 1, 2, 3. They're 6-0. And remember, they've got an over-under of 10.5 for the season. Things start to get interesting here down the stretch because after Mississippi State, they go to Texas.
This is where I think Georgia stumbles. I think that they going into Texas will be, undefeated most likely at that point as well. I think that this is going to be a tough game. I think Texas will have a lot of momentum in this game. I think Texas gets the regular season victory because let's see here. They're going to be coming off the Oklahoma game, which is going to be their first real big test. Well, no, I mean, you can say Michigan is going to be a test for Texas as well, but I think Texas wins that game. But Texas will be undefeated at that point going into the Georgia game. They get him at home. I'll take Texas.
I'm going with Texas as well. I absolutely agree. Like, I think that there are probably more people wondering how's Texas going to fare now that they're in the SEC. There aren't some of the cream puffs that they used to have to play or used to get to play in the Big 12 now that you're going to the SEC. And this will be really, one, the fact that they're taking on Michigan to open up the season, that and they're going to Ann Arbor to do it. I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. But so they'll already have been tested. This will be the first really, really big boy matchup that the Longhorns play, other than Oklahoma, but that's a rivalry game. But this will be the first really big one they get to play. Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck. I will lean towards Sark and the Longhorns on this one as well. So now Georgia has its first loss of the season. They're 6-1, and they play Florida in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think Florida's going to struggle this year, and they also have an absolutely brutal schedule. And I think at this point in the season, they're just going to be a punching bag, and I think Georgia wins that game.
I agree as well. Like Florida, we haven't done their predict their record yet, but I know they have one of the tougher schedules in the SEC as well, and they obviously don't have the same kind of talent that Georgia has. So I've got Georgia winning this one. So now they are 7-1, and they go to Ole Miss coming up next. And here's how they end the season: at Ole Miss, then Tennessee, and then UMass
and Georgia Tech.
Oh, you're right. That was it. Sorry, it cut off the end of the page there. Georgia Tech, the rivalry game in the season.
Which is not going to be any slouch of a game, but we'll get to that one. Yeah. At Ole Miss, Ole Miss is obviously they're all offense. I don't know what their defense is going to be able to do, but they're going to be in the top third of the SEC. Another big game for Georgia, but I do think they get past the Rebels.
Yeah, I think that Ole Miss is really will essentially give them, all that they want in this game because of their offense. That's still kind of what what Lane Kiffin and company is going to hang their hat on. Defensively, are they going to be enough? We know Georgia's going to be enough. So I like Georgia winning this one as well. What about the Tennessee game the week after that?
Georgia. I mean, Tennessee's going to be decent, but Georgia's going to be very battle tested at that point, and they'll know how to win that one.
Yeah, and Tennessee's going to have a young quarterback. I know, he's young and he's talented, but going up against that Bulldog defense, I just think that Georgia will be too much in that game. So now they still only have one loss. UMass, they're still only going to have one loss. So they are 10-1 playing Georgia Tech to close out the regular season.
The Yellow Jackets are going to be a tough out for anybody this year. Their schedule's pretty brutal as well. They've got a dynamic quarterback. You know, he's going to be able to do a lot of things. There's no doubt, but he is a turnover machine, and I think Georgia makes him pay.
Yep, I agree. So they'll be 11-1 is what we're picking, and they'll get to the SEC championship game. Is it going to be a rematch with Texas? Is that what it's going to be?
I think it is, and I think
Georgia SEC championship game.
And I think Georgia gets the better of them on that one.
Okay.
So that's where so I have them losing, but then winning.
Coming back and winning the rematch. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I think Georgia has more experience in that type of a game, recently, and I think they take care of business against Texas at that point.
All right. So they would go over the 10.5 with an 11-1 record and get into that SEC championship game and ultimately lock up one of the top 4 seeds in the playoff if they win that game, like you're saying. Fill in the blank. MLB All-Star Game uniforms last night were blank.
They're rough. I mean, that's what you guys came up with? Like, those were rough. Like, I liked the hats that the guys were wearing in the home run derby. Yeah. Like, I dug those hats. I was like, okay, they're onto something here. And then they roll out the jerseys, and it was like, really? Rough.
I like the style of the hats. The color scheme, especially that black and blue, I was not in on that at all. And then, again, just like everything, I realized that this is skewed for, like a younger demographic. The American League uniforms kind of grew on me over the course of the game.
Really? Those were the worst ones.
I thought that the black with the blue were the worst ones. Again, they grew like it reminded me a little bit of, like kind of like like some of the Negro League era, uniform, like something, kind of like that, a little bit of a throwback kind of thing. I liked it. Like I said, I wasn't, in on them right away, and I'm definitely not 100%. Like if I was going 1 to 10, I'd probably give them a 6, but I would give the National League black and blue uniforms probably a 2. So I just like the all black. I've never been in on all black uniforms, even when you throw
that's fair.
Whatever. So
I'm not a fan of the black pants kind of a deal either.
But yeah, exactly.
I'll give you that. The color scheme I don't mind. It was very reminiscent of like the old school Marlins jerseys, that kind of a thing, which I'm okay with. I was okay with that. The puke orange or whatever that was, I didn't like that at all.
Puke orange.
Well, whatever that color is. The American
tan. I thought it was tan.
Is that what it was? It looked. Maybe it looked a little bit too like University of Texas for me. I don't know, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
See, Jesse and I talked about this last night, Stymie. I think that they should just let them wear their own uniforms like they used to, and then
I like that so much better.
Come up with whatever the All-Star hat is, and let them wear the All-Star hat, but just let them wear their own uniforms. I think it looks a lot cooler that way.
I completely agree with that statement. And then they get to rock the alternate jersey, the All-Star jersey, quote unquote, at the home run derby. You know what I mean? Because all the players were there. They're all wearing it. You're still going to sell the same amount of jerseys, all of those different things. Just let them do it at the extra events. But the actual game itself, they should just wear their actual jerseys.
Totally agree. Did Paul Skenes live up to the hype in his All-Star debut?
He did not. No strikeouts. He walked somebody. Like, come on, man. My man Shota didn't even walk anybody and got a strikeout.
Did it feel like, because he got ahead of Juan Soto, and we were talking about the whole would he face Aaron Judge and all that kind of stuff because Judge was batting 4th. It felt to me, I think he was ahead of Soto 1 and 2. Worst case, I know it was 2 and 2.
Okay.
But then he kind of it seemed like he was throwing the ball almost wherever he wanted. It felt like maybe he pitched around Soto a little bit because he ended up walking him and then got to face Aaron Judge, like everyone wanted. And then I think it was one pitch and Judge grounded out to third base. So,
I mean, I want to see some high-powered strikeouts. Like that's what I would have wanted to see. Yeah, man. Like the high heat, get it up to like 102 just to F with them. Like that's what I wanted, but I didn't get it.
Yep. Instead, you got your Livy Dunn cutaway crowd shots.
I
So.
told you it was coming. She was rocking the red carpet, though, Sean Stiers.
No, I know. But, I mean, he was only out there for one inning, so, like, they had to get their Livy Dunn crowd shots while they could.
This is true. This is very, very true. Did you do an over-under with Jesse yesterday?
We didn't. I forgot to.
Okay. All right.
Get
That's
that
okay.
in.
That's
There's
okay.
only 2 that I remember.
Oh,
there might have been 3. I'm not sure. But Gilmore says, of course, Soto walks. He's always looking for walks when you need him to hit. But I like,
get
like
on
I
base,
said,
man. It's okay to get on base.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there was no way he was going to hit in that situation. Because again, Skenes got ahead of him. And then all of a sudden Skenes looked a little wild for 2 or 3 pitches. And it felt like he really wanted to face Aaron Judge, just the way a couple of those pitches went. But like I said, it all worked out. Judge grounded out. Skenes got his inning. Everyone, got your done crowd shots and whatever else. Okay, Vince. We talked about this being the 20th anniversary of the movie Dodgeball.
Yes.
Not too long ago. This is also the 20th anniversary of Anchorman, the legend of Ron Burgandy. So
That's
are
crazy.
you more Dodgeball or Anchorman?
I'm probably more Anchorman than I am Dodgeball. I've definitely watched Anchorman more times than Dodgeball. And it's close. And I'm trying to, like, if I'm like flipping through the channels, if I see, one or the other, I'm probably going to hang on Anchorman longer than I would hang on to Dodgeball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more in on Dodgeball. I've definitely watched it more. And I think it's mostly because Anchorman is just a longer movie. I think it's close to 2 hours, because like they basically, I don't know if you ever heard this, but when they filmed Dodgeball, or not Dodgeball, when they filmed Anchorman, they basically filmed 2 movies worth of stuff because, Will Ferrell and all those guys were just ad-libbing
I'm sure.
all the time. And so they, from what I heard, they actually put out, like on one of the DVDs, like a second movie with all the stuff that they didn't use. And they actually, I guess they shot it one way and then they showed it to test audiences and the test audiences were like, So they like changed the storyline and all this different stuff. So
interesting.
Yes. 60% of the time it works every time, baby.
There's some great lines in that movie for sure.
There are. Do you have any favorite scenes from Anchorman?
There's a lot of good ones, but the best one by far is the fight with all the different news teams.
The Anchorman, yeah, like the news team gang fight.
Friggin' awesome. Hilarious. And the
you
fact
get all
that
the cameos.
Yes, exactly. You got the cameos in there. I mean, just by far the best. And the trying to understand the Ben Stillers from the Spanish speaking station is even more hilarious. Like, really? But that even makes it more funny. So that's by far the best. And then at the end, they're like, I think he killed him with a trident or whatever it was. Like, we're gonna have you lay low for a while.
Yeah, you might need to find a safe house. You're probably wanted for murder.
Oh gosh, that escalated quickly.
Tim Robbins, no commercials, no mercy. Public TV. Who else? So you had
Vince Vaughn was
Vince
the main
Vaughn
guy or the main opposition.
Crew. Yeah, and then Luke Wilson rolls in with his crew and he gets his arm chopped off.
He was the third place group.
That's right.
He'll always be third place.
That's right. That was just because, like, especially seeing it for the first time, because you're like, probably halfway through the movie at that point, and they're supposed to be out like suit shopping, and they wander into an alley, and then just all of a sudden you get those cameos with those guys, Ben Stiller, Tim Robbins, Luke Wilson come rolling out.
Hilarious. It was great.
Yep.
Great movie.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. Good one, DK. I like that one. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good questions, as always. And again, Brick brought a trident. Where'd you get a hand grenade, Brick?
That's great.
Oh, hit that like button before you leave. We do appreciate it, and it helps us out greatly. And don't forget, head to the Champions Lounge. Get your questions in for Thursday's We In, We Out show, and we will hit those tomorrow. Vince, safe travels. Enjoy Tennessee. And I guess we'll see you next week sometime.
Right.
Or will you be here next week?
Yeah. I'll be back for the Wednesday show.
Trying to remember. Okay. All right.
Yep.
But then
Not
you're
Monday.
gone again after that for vacation.
Yes. The following week. Yep.
Gotcha. All right. That's going to do it. We will talk to you then. I'm a Nation Sports Talk.